Unfortunately, everybody has them, and we're going to talk about difficult clients today. In an ideal world, every client would be great, but that's not the case. You should work on understanding who you best serve, the type of client, whether it's their style, their energy, occupation, something about their personal life that connects you with them. And then that would help you define who you best want to work with. But let's go through some of the characteristics of a difficult client and how to prevent them. Um, First of all, prevention is the best cure. So you have to understand: are you vetting your clients carefully? And as a PA, I know it's tempting just to take on every client that wants to work with you, but really, realistically, every client that you take on that isn't your ideal client is time away from your ideal client. So just consider that. It's very hard. As a marketing consultant, when I was just starting out, I took on everything and anybody that wanted to give me money, but I quickly stopped that practice, and I haven't looked back since. It's fantastic to just work with the highest and best use of people who are polite to me, people who respect my work, people who have the same energy as me. All that stuff just goes a long way. It really does. And it makes your life just on a day-to-day basis so much more enjoyable. So what are some of the warning signs of a difficult client? Well, first of all, the big warning sign is they're unresponsive. Okay. It's the hardest thing to do is to deal with a client who just doesn't get back to you or gives you information that didn't really even answer your question in the first place. That's kind of a sign of being unresponsive, just in a different way. But also on the flip side of that, they're clingy. I rarely, if ever, text with anybody except close family and friends, very close. So texting is not recommended. Being clingy is a large portion of clients that love to text that are also clingy. I'm not saying that if you text with your client that you're dealing with a clingy client, but you are giving them another option, another tool to be clinging to you. The reason why I don't like text is when people get a text, they expect a fast response. And out of respect for the way I and most professionals structure their day, there's a certain time of the day that I do certain things, and you should too. Like there's a certain time of the day that you check email. There's a certain time of the day that you work on your business. There's a certain time of the day you work in your business, that kind of stuff. Another warning sign is they have high expectations for your availability. They think that you're the only client they're working with, and they want to talk to you 10 times a day, and they may hang up the phone and then have a question for you right away, and they call right back. Like that kind of stuff is a warning sign. And they question your rates, right? So you might be working on a percentage of whatever that you recover, but they try to negotiate down. Now, there's nothing wrong with negotiating down or up your rate, but if they keep doing it over and over again after they agree that that was the rate, then there's an issue there. The big warning sign for me when I'm on a prospect call with a client from a consulting perspective is that there's unrealistic expectations in turnaround time. A lot of times clients don't really know what they need or know what work it takes to put in that you're doing. So something as simple as what quote unquote simple as a policy review to them might take you an entire day or 2 days, depending on the complexity of the policy. So you want to make sure that they understand that it's more than just looking at a few pages and giving you a policy evaluation. There's some work that's involved here. And if they start questioning that or not really understanding why they maybe they need something by a certain deadline, it's just an artificial deadline, you want to keep an eye out for TATs. Those are turnaround times. They don't know what they want. And that's not always a signal of a difficult client, but if it's a repeated problem, they really can't answer you. They don't know what the answer should be. They can't make a direction on their own or a decision on their own, or can't form their own directions. Like that's a problem. Okay. And kind of on the side of that is that they complain frequently. There's always like a pessimist answer or a passive aggressive answer, and they're, why couldn't I get this done? Or maybe it doesn't have to be about you. It could be about them, or maybe another situation, something else that happened to them during the day or the week. So they're always complaining, and that kind of brings you down as well, and it also makes you feel unappreciated. They don't want to answer your questions, or they're vague about their answers. So they almost think that you're working for the insurance company to some regard. So they don't really feel that they're on your team. So you have to make very clear that you are working with them and there's nothing to hide. It's almost like somebody having an attorney and feeling like they should open up to their attorney, and really in order to do that and be open and honest, the attorney can best represent you and best direct you. They can't be any hidden agendas or facts on your behalf with your client, or you both are going to be going off in different directions. They also won't work with a contract. That's, a lot of clients will say, well, just go ahead and give me get me that first check from my insurance company, then we'll talk about shoring up a contract. Like, that's a huge warning sign. You should get everything in writing, right? And they question many areas of the contract as well. That's not very favorable. If they have to go through it line by line, that's fine. But if they start questioning everything, like, why is it written like this? Or can you do this? Can you change that? You're going to know that, like, when you have to go over them later on, working with them for the next 6 months or a year, if it's a big claim, then you know that, like, visiting them with some new paperwork from your insurance company is going to be an all-day thing, because they got to go through every line. You got to balance your time accordingly. They give you a bad vibe. Listen to your gut. A lot of times when I'm dealing with clients or prospects on a discovery call, I'll just know right away. I'll just think, something's not right here. Something's not right by the way they approach me, they talk to me, their energy, whatever. I just don't get a good feeling. And I can't tell you how many times I just said, you know what, you're better off working with someone else. I'll give them a name or something. But if they give you a bad vibe, listen to the little man inside of you. It's there for a reason. So pick up on that. And they are nitpickers. Every little thing that talks about, going back to the questioning every area of the contract and frequently complaining. Nitpickers have to look at every single detail. They're probably managers at a job where they micromanage. They got to nitpick at every little thing. Why couldn't it be done this way? Why couldn't it be that and that way? As an entrepreneur, I'm always someone who tries to, perfection is the enemy of done, is one of my sayings, and I didn't make that up. But I try to just get it to where it's a satisfactory decision, and I don't dwell on every little aspect and every little detail of a particular project or task. I get a team around me that can do that for me, but I'll make sure that I'm just not nitpicking about everything, because clients, prospects, team members, everybody, they just don't like nitpickers. Okay, so let's just lastly go through some personality types. Those are some traits that were early warning signs. But now, if we can take those traits and kind of package them up in a personality type, it'll help you kind of bring all of these traits into fruition by assigning them kind of a person. And I didn't make these up. I got this from a website called Practice Ignition, which is, I believe it's an e-commerce education site, but these very much apply to PAs. So there's party member Patrick. He can't make a single decision without consulting with someone else. He's always got to it's almost like talking to him as just like a pass through of talking to somebody else. He's always got to take something and go somewhere else to get that final buy off. Know-it-all Nancy. So she feels that she can be a better PA than you, and she'll tell you everything about what you're doing wrong. Even if it's not about your industry in general, but maybe it's the way you're writing a Word document or taking notes. I mean, there's always a specific procedure for Know-it-all Nancy, and she's glad to tell you about all of her procedures that could work better than what you're doing. It's a simple job, Jason. Now, this particular person, Jason, declares that everything is simple and easy, and you won't have any trouble while asking for a million customized detail and complex systems. You want to keep an eye out for someone like that, because that can make client work very difficult. There's Emergency Edith, and gosh, I hope you haven't experienced this. This is one of the worst personality types, where everything needs to be done yesterday. They'll call you back after an hour and say, is my policy evaluation done yet? It's like, no. We talked about this on the phone, and I'm going to get back to you on Thursday. It takes several hours. She has no concept of the fact that you have other clients that you expect to bend space-time continuum to be with her, and she just puts impossible deadlines, and many of them are artificial, and they just make no sense, but she just wants everything right now. Okay. And then there's Terrible Terry. So Terry screams down the phone. She brings emotion into everything, and everything she does, and it bleeds into other aspects of your business. So you sleep with one eye open because you don't know if she's going to be calling at 2 a.m. screaming at you for something that you may or may not even been involved in. Okay. So when working with these people, you want to set expectations. If you have to work for these people, my goal is that you don't, that you'll have so much business that you can pick and choose your clients. But when you do set expectations, you want to do that right from that discovery call. If you haven't watched a class on the discovery call, please do that. Do it early, do it often. The worse a client is, the more milestones you should make. So give them small pieces of milestones. I'm going to have your policy evaluation done on Thursday. And then from there, we're going to have a follow-up call. And then we're going to write our first email to the agent on Friday or Saturday, whatever the case. You want to make sure that you produce a timeline for early communication and good communication. And then cut your losses. Sometimes, after a week of signing or even a month of signing an agreement, you realize this person might be one of the emergency Edith types that Mike was talking about. Let's go ahead and move on because I just got some call with 2 great prospects that I might have to turn down because Edith has taken up so much time. It's worth to just cut your losses, give a referral. I wouldn't give a referral to someone a public adjuster you want to work with in the future because they're going to avoid your referrals unless you just tell them up front, listen, this person is not matching up with my style. I think that you two should have a call, something like that. And then, I was in the Army for 8 years. And one of the things we always did was an AAR. It's called an after action review. And I don't really expect anyone to do it, but I just want you to be aware of it. Whenever you get rid of a client, you had to proactively, or maybe even the other way around, maybe a client got rid of you, but you had to proactively break off a client. It's important to document it with an AAR. As you grow, as you scale, as you get experience in public adjusting, you're going to want to look back on those AARs, and you're going to see some commonality on why this particular client stopped working with you or vice versa. Okay, you're going to see so write down everything, all the notes on why, from the beginning, was your gut bad? Did you have good expectations? What went wrong during maybe the communication was bad, that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure you document make it a procedure that every time you end a contract with a client that went bad, you want to make sure to do an AAR. And there's no real specific format for that. Just take notes, bullet point notes about traits that you could have seen or should have seen in retrospect. Let's talk about how to get rid of them. First thing you want to do, you want to know your contract. A lot of times PAs are handing out contracts they haven't even read themselves, where they just look at the bullet point stuff, the ones that the clients have to fill out. But check your termination clause. You might find that it's easier than you think to terminate a client's contract. You want to make sure to maintain your integrity when working with clients, especially ones like myself that have total losses. When my house burned down, emotions are high and they're unsure of the future. There's just so much at stake. Usually marriages are struggling because of a loss. And there's a lot going on outside of the relationship that you have with your client that the client may get upset about, and they might take it out upon you. You want to make sure to maintain your integrity the entire time. You want to be polite and be professional, and don't let your emotions get in the way. And just understand that the other person is going through something that hopefully you will never have to go through. Maintain everything in writing. So if you talk on the phone, you always should follow up with email. This is one of the best practices I do as a consultant is whenever I talk to anybody verbally, a prospect or a client, I'll follow up with them on a summary of what we talked about very quickly, maybe even a bullet point, and then what's the next action steps. Okay. So you should do that as well. And that way, if you scale up and you have other people maybe helping you with that client, they have a written record of everything that you did, especially verbally too. Minimize engagement. So you want to stick to the facts. So this is, along the lines of public adjusters and clients becoming friends, especially if they're referrals and you might know somebody. I don't want to say you don't want to be friends with your clients, but you want to minimize the engagement. So one of the public adjusters that I worked with actually was insistent on taking me out to dinner multiple times. I had no problem going out to dinner with him, especially he was paying for lunch. That's great. But it got to the point where he was becoming very, very friendly with me, and I had no problem with that. Great guy. But it got in the way a little bit of the work. Sometimes when we started to talk about conversations about the actual the contract or the work that we're doing for my insurance company, it kind of got side railed into personal conversations, which wasn't always the best situation. I had to kind of bring the conversation back. So at any rate, the point of this is just to minimize the engagement. You want to be friendly enough to keep a good rapport, but don't try to dive too much into the personal nature of your clients. Because sometimes you cross that friend client line that could be kind of testing the waters a little bit about the longevity of your engagement. Okay, so I hope these helped a lot, and just going through this class will help you understand and identify some of the traits of difficult clients, and I hope you're more aware of them now. Good luck.